As we all know, petitions in Pennsylvania can be one of the most important things for a campaign. And that is why we at the Pennsylvania Federation of Young Republicans are providing you with this video so that you can understand how to be able to fill out your petitions as a new candidate, and later also how to be able to circulate petitions so that you can actually teach all of your circulators the ins and outs about petitions. As a new candidate, there is a lot of things you've got to ask yourself before you even decide to run when it comes to your petitions. First off is, how many signatures do you need to be on the ballot? This is very important because the simple fact, every different office has a different amount of signatures. For the most part, school boards are normally 10, as well as committees when it comes to the county. Now, when it comes to a city race, on the average, it's about 100. And then for the county, on the average, it's 250. Sometimes there is a difference depending on what they've actually decided. So make sure to check with your local elections bureau so that you can definitely know how much or how many signatures that you need. Now, secondly, you do have to remember, are there any petition notary parties? You know, this is because a lot of times your local committees will actually hold a notary party to be able to give you a free notary for all of your circulators. But also what happens a lot of times is some of the actual candidates, like, for instance, congressmen or anybody that may have someone out there circulating, a lot of times they will actually offer petition parties themselves. So that's definitely something you'll want to look into. Also, how many people do you actually have available to circulate? Because you have to know who is able and who is actually qualified to be able to circulate for you. This is very important to know who's especially qualified. Make sure that person circulating actually can vote in the district that they're circulating for. Because if they don't, that whole petition can be thrown out. The other thing is, you do have to look at when you can start circulating. Currently in 2015, our date is February 17th. But every year that changes, so make sure to check with your local county committee or even check with the Elections Bureau for your county to find out what day you're able to actually start circulating. Lastly, you do need to make sure to know when the petitions have to be back. This is very important because if you get there after the close of business, none of your petitions will go through. So therefore, you will not be on the ballot. So make sure this year it's actually on March 10th of 2015. So that's one thing you do have to make sure about. Now, it's actually time to start filling out the top of your petition. For candidates, this is one of the biggest mistakes that sometimes people make. So let's go over what's actually on a petition. That way you yourself can know what you're doing before you do it. This right here is actually the top of a state petition. Counties may be a little different, but for the most part, everything on here will be on your county petitions. Now, if you notice on the first line, it actually says nomination petition for. You want to make sure to put the office you are running for. If it's recorder of deeds, Register of Wills, or in my case, member of the Republican State Committee. Make sure that is listed on there in that way. Next would be your district. If you have a district, that's great. Like, for instance, some cities will be Borough 1, Ward 4, that you're actually elected in your borough or ward. That is where you would use that. You want to make sure that the year of the primary is correct. And also, you want to make sure to put your candidate name correctly. Personally, I recommend putting it on there the way you're going to have it on the ballot. You will have a spot here in a little while to where you can put it the way it's going to be on the ballot. However, I recommend having it that way, even right there. Your occupation, it's simple. Whatever you do. If you're a teacher, you write educator or teacher. Myself, currently I'm a security officer, so I would put that down. Your residential street address, you want to make sure to use your actual address. No P.O. boxes, your actual address, because this will be what will prove that you are in that district. Also, city, borough, or township. Make sure, this is one of the places a lot of people screw up. Make sure you put your actual city, borough, or township. For instance, if you live in Chippewa Township, your mailing address is still Beaver Falls, but you would have to put Chippewa. So that you do need to check. And also, county of signers is Beaver, or whatever county you're in, if that's on the county one. I do not have an example for the county because they are not out for this year yet. Also, it will have the party of the signers. Everyone that signs must be of your party. Now, let's go look at the rest of it. Now, this is actually the top of the candidate affidavit. The thing is, you have your petitions and you also have the affidavit, which every candidate must fill out. This will make sure your name gets on the ballot as it should appear. You notice, of course, name is correct there. Residential address, once again, make sure to use your actual mailing address here. You would want to use the city, but you want your actual address. Municipality, of course, with me is Beaver Falls. And then you will put your mailing address. After that, you will make sure if your mailing address is different than your residential, that's where you put a P.O. box or such. Precinct name, make sure it's the actual precinct. For instance, a lot of people will live in a precinct called Tower or something like that. Make sure it's your exact precinct name. Once again, you will list the office which you are seeking and your district number. I do recommend when it comes to your email to have one, and this is why I recommend for all candidates to have a separate email for their campaign. This email will be used for any communication with a county or the state that actually reaches out via email. Lastly, on here it does say the name as it is to appear on the ballot. So whatever you put down, that is how your name will be on the ballot. Now, here's a question. What is the biggest mistake that's made by a candidate on their petitions? It may seem like it's something that you shouldn't make a mistake on, but what is the biggest mistake? we'll look at that on the next slide. Do not sign any place it says for a notary. Do not sign that without your notary present. Make sure to tell your circulators this, as well as yourself. You notice on the candidate affidavit, it needs a notary. And also on the petitions, you do need a notary. So do not sign these. Most notaries will not sign unless the person is there, and unless they sign in front of them. If someone does not do it in front of the notary, this could invalidate your petition with all those signatures. So once again, I cannot stress enough, do not sign without the notary. Now this is the time you really need to concentrate. What are the keys for your circulators? For one, make sure that they know who's signing. If they don't know the person and they're not on their street sheets, then they need to make sure where that person is registered because of all the information that goes on there. Also, no ditto marks are allowed. Do not let those little quotes come in there. If those are showing on your petition, that signature is not valid. Everything has to be handwritten by the actual voter in order for that petition to not be struck down. Use your street sheets wisely. On the top of every street sheet, which we will look at an example here in a couple minutes, it shows the precinct, the borough, it shows the exact name as it needs to be there, it shows the exact address, it shows everything. So make sure that they use them wisely. And as I said, it has to be filled out as they are on these street sheets. Now, here's the key to getting a lot of signatures. Go in high Republican areas that are very dense. It is very difficult to get your signatures in a very rural area. So make sure to go into the cities. For instance, if you lived in Beaver County, you would go to Beaver, which is one of our most dense Republican areas, for the majority of your signatures. And make sure you tell your circulators to double check everything on the petition before leaving that doorstep. It's much harder to get someone to answer the door after you've had them sign than it is to just say, I apologize, I noticed something's wrong here, can we get it fixed real quick? And make sure also that all of your circulators are asking if they'd be interested in volunteering or even meeting the candidate. A lot of times they get a little touchy when it comes to signing, but if you can come to them and say, hey, I'll tell you what, he's not here with me today, but I can make sure to let the candidate know to come by and say hi. In those circumstances, a lot of times they will definitely sign for you as long as you're showing them that you understand how they feel. And also make sure everybody is prepared for questions about you. The candidate is the star. Make sure that they know about you. Make sure they know your standings. It might even be a good idea to give a small bio to all of your circulators. Have them ask you questions as though someone was coming to their door and they didn't know you. Or provide them a list of questions that you think could be asked and give your answers so that they can actually know what is going on. And just remind all your circulators just because someone is signing the petition, it does not mean that they endorse you. They're just helping you to get over that first hump to be on the ballot. This is just you being able to exercise your constitutional right to run for office. Now, let's look at the street sheets. Now, street sheets, as it says, are your friend. These are the sheets that's going to tell you who your voters are, as well as how they need to be on your petitions. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you will see that it shows Beaver Borough 1. Beaver is the municipality. It's the borough. If this were Chippewa Township, it would show Chippewa Township 1. Also, it shows the name as it's needed on the petition. You must make sure it is written as it is for their voter registration. So, for instance, you wouldn't want Jonathan Tetrick to put John Tetrick. You would want Jonathan L. Tetrick. Or William Schwartz would not want to be Bill Schwartz. It would be William J. Schwartz. Also, the address as it's needed is right there so that your circulator can see exactly what needs to be down for that particular voter. Now, let's explore an actual petition. As you notice here, I do have an actual petition with one signature on it. The signature of the elector is actually right there. And then the printed name is right next to it, and it matches the signature. Then you do have the house number, street, and then city, borough, or township, and the date. Make sure everything is in there perfect. Now, let's look at another example and see if we can figure out what is wrong with this next one. Now, you see the second one. What do you think is wrong? Well, I'll tell you. As you notice in the first one, the signature is Robert V. Williams. Well, this petition signer wrote it Rob Williams. That is not the way it's on the voter registration. So therefore, that could be struck down by your local elections bureau. Now, let's explore the next one. We notice, once again, that the Rob Williams is wrong. But there's actually two more things wrong in this. What are they? Well, it's the McDonald. The mailing address for 74 Cherry Valley Road is McDonald, but it's in Mount Pleasant Township. So therefore, Mount Pleasant should be there. The other issue that is there is look at the date. It actually says February 16th. We couldn't circulate until February 17th. Plus, it's a date before the signing ahead of that. So that would actually null and void that petition. Now, let's look at the last one. If you said the ditto marks, you got it right. As I had stated before, you cannot have ditto marks on your petitions.